URA sinaba kusasula musolo Janet. Lete basa gye nakuwa. Bannange sinasasula URA. Aya esawa zigenda kuggwayo. Sibye bino waliwo basa gye nasembayo kuwa. Aya esawa zonna ebiyinza okuba nga bye bino kangende biranja bikeberere. Afande njagala kudduka genda kusasula musolo ngenda kusanga basibyewo.
Nyabo ekyo kibadde kipakusa. Tokimanyi nti URA yabigonza dda. Kati usobola kusasula kusimyo nyabo.
Nti afande.
Onyigamunize *285#. Ngogoberera emitendera egyo. Ngofuna ka message. Ate URA yakuwaliza ekyapula. Teba kubanga URA.
Thank you so much afande.
Okalubirizibwa okusasula omusolo gwa bizinesi y'ombudde genda bugenze mu ssimu nnyonyige kamunyenye 285#. Abaddukanya bizinesi entono eziyingiza wakati wa miliyoni 10 ne miliyoni 15 omwaka bakwanguyirwa okusasula omusolo gwabwe ogwa presumptive tax nga banyigabunyezi kamunyenye 285#. Banyumirwe enkola enennyango etali mu nsindikagano.
Nyabo bannange bya ddala. Janet omuntu awonyera yini gwe nina kusasuliranga ku ssimu nabayo bannange.
Tuzimbire wamu ebiseera by'omu maaso ebitangaavu nga tunyiga kamunyenye 285# olunaku lwonna essaawa yonna wonna w'oli. Uganda Revenue Authority tukulaakulanyize wamu Uganda.
Wala bana ifudde banzibye zempedde. Kyangweno naawe olowooza babbi ba ku street be banzibye. Saabo kankubulire natikka ebintu byange okuva China ne bangamba neetaaga tiini namba. Nze nga sigirina neetuma omuntu omulala abindeetere. Kati ngenze mu URA baŋŋambye ebintu byange tebiri mu manya gange era si byange mbu sayina tiini namba. Nze kati nebya tiini namba sibitegeera. Nane mfudde obusete neewola bwewole yetiini namba byebiki. Bannange sente zange.
Tax identification number. Oba giyite namba. Omusuubuzi zewandiisa mu URA asasulira emisolo.
Kati ebyo nze njifuna ntya bambikola ntya?
Ebintu babigonza. Olina ndagamuntu?
Njirina.
Ogenda bugenzi ku website ya URA www.ura.go.ug awo n'olondako e-services then n'ogenda ku tin registration. Awo nno oteramu n'ennamba yo n'omwaka gwe wazaalibwamu amannya go gajja kwereta automatically. Awo n'ojjuzaamu n'ebirala bitono nnyo ebyetaagisibwa ng'ennamba y'essimu yo, email address yo ne gy'obeera. Era nga bino osobola obbisanga emabega wa ndagamuntu yo. Then n'osubmitinga nga ka message kajja direct ku ssimu yo. Dakiika ntono nnyo nga kiwedde. Second aka message ogenda kafuna kebera ku ssimu yo.
Nga sina. Bannange bintu bikolera ddala bannange obugayaavu kibi. Omanyi nti obugayaavu bukuza mu bannange weebale Dangote. Bannange omponyeza. Omanyi ebintu byange bingi by'owonyeza okubbibwa. Nzizeyo mu URA mbalage nti njirina.
Okubeera ne tini namba kikuyamba mu bintu bingi nnyo okugeza mu kusuubula n'okusuubuza eby'emuguzi mu Uganda ne wabweru wa Uganda, okuddizibwa ensimbi okuva ku misolo gy'ozosasula, okufuna looni mu banka ez'enjawulo, okufuna layisinsi okuva mu government agencies zonna, okuwandiisa emmotoka yo n'okugula oba okutunda ettaka.
URA tukulaakulanyize wamu Uganda.
URA sinaba kusasula musolo Janet. Lete basa gye nakuwa. Bannange sinasasula URA. Aya essaawa zigenda kuggwayo. Sibye bino waliwo basa gye nasembayo kuwa. Aya essaawa zonna ebiyinza okuba nga bye bino kangende biranja bikeberere. Afande njagala kudduka genda kusasula musolo ngenda kusanga basibyewo.
Nyabo ekyo kibadde kipakusa tokimanyi nti URA yabigonza dda kati osobola kusasula ku simu yo nnyabo
nti afande
onyigamunize star 285 ash ng'ogoberera emitendera egyo ng'ofuna ka message ate URA yakuwaliza ekyapula teba kubanga URA
thank you so much afande
okalubirizibwa okusasula omusolo gwa bizinesi y'omubudde genda bugenzi mu simu nnyonyige kamunyenye 285 hash abaddukanya bizinesi entono eziyingiza wakati wa miliyoni 10 ne miliyoni 15 omwaka bakwanguyirwa okusasula omusolo gwabwe ogwa presumptive tax nga banyiga bunyezi kamunyenye 285 hash banyumirwe enkola enennyango etali mu nsindikagano
nyabo bannange bya ddala Janet omuntu awonye layini gwe ngenda kusasuliranga ku simu labayo bannange
tuzimbire wamu ebiseera by'omu maaso ebitangaavu nga tunyiga kamunyenye 285 hash olunaku lwonna essaawa yonna wonna w'oli. Uganda Revenue Authority tukulakulanyize wamu Uganda.
Wala banayivudde banzimye nze mpedde Jangu eno naawe olowooza ababbi b'oku street be banzibye. Saabo, kankubulire. Natikka ebintu byange okuva China. Ne bangamba neetaaga tiini namba. Nze nga sigirina ne ntuma omuntu omulala abindeetere. Kati ngenze mu URA. Bangambye ebintu byange tebiri mu mannya gange era si byange. Mbu sayina tiini namba. Nze bya tiini namba sibitegeera. Ane mfudde obusete neewola bwewole ye tiini namba byebiki bannange sente zange
tax identification number oba giyite namba musuubuzi zewandiisa muwala asasulira emisolo
kati ebyo nze njifuna ntya bambikola ntya
ebintu babigonza olina ndagamuntu
iyi njirina
ogenda bugenzi ku website ya URA www.ura.go.ug awo nolondako e-services then nogenda ku tin registration awo nno woteeramu n'ennamba yo n'omwaka gwe wazaalibwamu amannya go gajja kwereeta automatically awo nojjuzaamu n'ebirala bitono nnyo ebyetaagisibwa ng'ennamba y'essimu yo email address yo ne gy'obeera era nga bino osobola obbisanga emabega wandagamuntu yo then nosubmitinga nga kamesagi kajja direct ku ssimu yo dakiika ntono nnyo
nga sina bannange bintu bikolera ddala bannange obugayaavu kibi omanyi nti obugayaavu bukuza muti bannange weebale Dangote bannange omponyeza omanyi ebintu byange bingi byowonyeza okubbibwa nzizeyo mu URA mbalage nti njirina
okubeera ne tini namba kikuyamba mu bintu bingi nnyo okugeza mu kusuubula n'okusuubuza eby'emuguzi mu Uganda ne wabweru wa Uganda okuddizibwa ensimbi okuva ku misolo gy'ozosasula okufuna looni mu banka ez'enjawulo okufuna layisinsi okuva mu government agencies zonna okuwandiisa emmotoka yo n'okugula oba okutunda ettaka.
URA tukulaakulanyize wamu Uganda.
Good morning, welcome to this episode of the Live Tax Lounge. We are coming to you live from the URA Drift Studio here at the URA headquarters Nakawa. And this morning we are very privileged to have a very interesting conversation about the highest form of service delivery, if at all you're trading with the Customs Department of Uganda Revenue Authority. Now, you've been to situations, I personally have been into a situation where I've gone to a bank with the interest of transacting. And I've arrived at this particular bank, I'm not going to mention its name, a bit past 4 p.m. And 4 p.m. is the official closing time. And the Askaris, it is the Askaris that usually interface with at that point, have told me that, no, you can't get in. I spoke a lot of English, I spoke a lot of Luganda, but they would just not let me in. Now, to my shock and at a surprise, some much rich-looking individuals would come through, and they would be given a very clear, pass to utilize some other door and make their entry to, a certain section of that very same bank to enjoy the service of this bank way past 4 p.m. It is much later that I got to learn that people who are actually in the prestige section of that particular bank can transact way past official opening bank hours. And I came to appreciate that fingers are not equal. And even in this side of the business, fingers are not equal, because even just like how the banks have their special offering that is accorded to what they deem premium customers, Customs of Uganda Revenue Authority also has an arrangement that is very much akin to that. The difference here is that it is not necessarily about how much money that you have in the bank or how much money or volume of transactions that you're doing. There are some specific elements that actually get you qualified to become an authorized economic operator, and that and more is what we are actually discussing this morning. I just wanted to go there to get us here. And with me in studio today is a pair of very able, very diligent gentlemen who have been in service of this, our Uganda Revenue Authority, for like the longest time, and they've been doing a diligent job. And this morning they are going to be breaking down everything there is to appreciate about the authorized economic operator program. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to request the production team to bring them in so that we are able to have this conversation this morning. On my immediate left is a person who is no stranger to anyone who has been in the business of importing cargo for the last 10, 15, 20 years, and he's none other than Charles. Charles, if you can say your hellos to the viewers and you let them know exactly who you are and what you do here at URA.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. And my name is Charles Udwin Rumanyika Gapabusa, the Manager of Customs Audit and an Office of Customs. Mr. Moderator, I've talked to people who have been involved in international trade and could have possibly got in touch to come to know about me and my colleague. And you mentioned 10 years, but actually it's close to 27 years. So I've been in touch with that sector, and trade facilitation and business for that long.
3 decades.
About 1 year or 2 years, shy of 3 decades.
I know so many of our viewers who have actually not been in existence for that time, but you've been serving customers in that space. And we are very glad to have you this morning with us. On my further left is another gentleman who is also very seasoned, and he has this program very, very dear to his heart. None other than Martin. If you can come in and say your hellos, Martin, let people know who you are.
Thank you, Solomon, and good morning, everybody who has tuned in. My name is Martin Ojok. I have been in this organization also for quite some time. As Charles has said, we are just a few years shy of 3 decades, and we have really worked in many different departments within the URA, and we have seen it grow from where it came from up to where it is now, and we hope that we shall hand it over to the newer generation when it is a much better organization. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Martin Ojok. Thank you for demonstrating the willingness to hand it over to the newer generation. And I must say that they are here. And I must hope that learning and teaching is actually taking place, because they need to be ready if they are to serve the way that you guys have been serving for like the longest time possible. Now, very quickly, I would like us to get into the matters of today. I know I could have hinted about elements of how it works, but you are here to tell us exactly what it is. And without further ado, if you can let me, I would like to ask the very first question, and that is a question of what is the AEO program? Charles, if you can come in and address that question. It is a 2-in-1 because there are elements of what it is, but there are also elements of the background. Did we even need a program like this as revenue collectors? Because someone could be there thinking that every taxpayer is equal. Why are you singling out some taxpayers to give them, a specialized treatment or specialized attention? If you can come in and you give us the proper background of what the program is, you properly define it, so that we get a much better understanding of what it is.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to us. I think the best way of answering the question you have put on the floor is possibly to put into perspective the bigger picture. Mm-hmm. That all of us must have heard of the discussion about Millennium Development Goals. MDGs. Health, security, employment, underage labor, forced labor. You must have heard about terrorism. You must have heard about trafficking, which of course compromise health. And those are activities or elements that are driven by international trade. So on one hand, we have got international trade that helps us achieve the Millennium Development Goals, because when they come over here and invest, when there's business, we get employment, we pay income tax, we pay customs duties, we provide disposable income. But then the same trade that we want to promote, that actually enriches and enables us to achieve the Millennium Development Goals, is the same trade that exposes us to risk. because trafficking of humans, trafficking of drugs, security issues, we have heard about bombs in this society. We have got issues of substandard drugs, substandard products where the building collapses, where you get electrocuted. So all those are activities that come from trade. And who are the key players in this business? One, of course, is the business community, which is the private sector. Another one is us, the government agencies, Bureau of Standard, Border Security, customs agents, ministries and government and departments and agencies. But then also there is a central one called customs, because customs is essentially the lead agent on border crossing. So whereas trade is an engine for us achieving the Millennium Development Goals, trade could also be a risk that we don't achieve those goals.
True.
And we're also aware that we are getting overwhelmed as officers and the staff of government, that whereas the numbers are a little bit stagnant, not growing as fast, trade is growing faster. And we also recognize that we are not masters and experts of this business. The importer knows his business more than we do. The customs agent knows how he clears more than we do. The transporter knows what he has imported more than we do. So now, having realized those, the world wanted to establish standards of how best can we ensure that there is trade facilitation, how best can we ensure that there is security of that trade, and how best can we treat people in a way that is standard. That if I'm treated at Mombasa, I should find the same treatment in Malaba, I should find the same treatment in Kampala. If I came from Europe, from China, from America, or from whichever part of the continent, and I had a certain expectation, I should have that expectation through. You talked about going to the bank, that if you enter the bank and they will come to you with a smile, you cannot find a rude cashier. That's the issue of standards. And because there was a difficulty of having standards, and because every society put its own standards, we ended up becoming non-tariff barriers. So the world, through WCO, decided to develop the safe framework of standards so that we can establish standards to recognize traders that are compliant, treat them better, give them benefits as one arm. Then two, also establish a method, a standard that we can cooperate with other players in international trade. How does customs cooperate with the business? How does customs cooperate with other government agencies? So that we can be able to deliver that benefit. Of course, the third element is now, then who is this one who qualifies? And I think also that answers the question you had raised earlier. Is AUO for a privileged? Is AUO for everyone? How do we make a choice? And the AUO program, like I had earlier on said, is essentially a voluntary compliance program. And we actually open to every business entity in this society and say, please come and partner with us. Show willingness to cooperate so that we can now trust you and let you not be inconvenienced. Not that you are 100% perfect, because systems there could be lapses. Standards could betray you. Competency issues could come in. But the spirit that you are willing to join us on this program, so that we can now recognize you as a privileged operator, allow you to go through customs without any disturbance, on the understanding that you have got good systems, good processes, good controls, so that 1 year, 2 years, 3 years down the road, we are sure that we are going to find the records to do an audit trail. We've been having, for example, the Auditor General in URA. The Auditor General has come to URA not because he does not trust us, but he has come to URA to ensure that the systems that we committed to be supporting trade, the system that we committed to be the ones that support governance, are the systems in place. So those systems, processes, those controls are the ones that are drivers of the AO program, especially for clients that are willing to come on board. So essentially, that's how the AO program operates, and it operates as a partnership between government, in this case customs, with the private sector, government with other government agencies, government with all players in international trade, facilitate trade for those who are willing to be consistently compliant. And should there be a lapse, willing to put in place mechanism to correct that lapse. I submit.
Thank you so much, Charles, for really giving us that background, and you've made it a point to explain and make sure that we all understand the fact that this is a global movement. It is not just happening here in Uganda, but rather it is happening everywhere else. And the objectives are quite clear. You hinted on some of them, but there's an element of ensuring that we actually have state trade happening absolutely everywhere along the supply value chain, from the countries where goods are coming from to countries where goods are going, and the reverse is true. But in there also is a very important issue of maximizing revenue that is collected by each of these entities in the fastest and safest way possible. And that brings us to the second question, and it is a question that I'm going to field to Martin, seasoned man who has been around this particular program for like the longest time, and I feel like there is none other qualified to answer these particular questions. The very first question is a question of, for the case of Uganda, when did the AEO program start? And the second question is again very similar to the very first question. It is a question on the objectives for URA for Uganda. What were we looking for at the point of setting up this program in this country? Of course, it comes from the understanding that we needed it, but if you can give us credence, exactly why did we need this program? Over to you, Martin.
Okay, thank you very much, Solomon. When did it start? Picking from the background that Charles has given us, when the realization took place, the one Charles talked about, at the level of World Customs Organization, they decided that there is need for standards that should be put in place. That's when they came up with a famous document called the WCO Safe Framework of Standards in 2005. At the moment it was adopted by the WCO Council in 2005, URA at that time being one of the, URA has always been having that vision to be measured with the best around the world. They would adopt best practices and that. So right back in 2005, our commissioners here wrote a letter of intent to the WCO to start implementing the provisions of the Safe Framework of Standards, which then provides the standards for the AEO program. After that, in 2006, we did what we call a diagnostic study to see how ready we are to implement. In 2007, the process of putting up, because it was, we realized that the best way to do it was to adopt a project model to implement this program. So in 2007, the formulation of the team took place. Actual implementation, the actual work started by the project team started in 2010. And then we rolled out or launched the program in 2013. That is why now from that time to this year, we have made 10 years. That's when we authorized the first companies. So that's briefly the background of when it started.
Okay.
Then about the objective, of course, definitely by the time you pick something, you must have a reason why you want it.
Sure.
So the objectives, one, we wanted to enhance trade facilitation because we realized that the challenge of increase or growth of trade against the few resources that we have, the challenge was leading to issue of we were failing or we were not delivering well on our mandate to facilitate trade as well. So we wanted to enhance trade facilitation, and then we wanted to promote partnership, customs, our business partners, and we wanted to promote that partnership. But we also wanted to promote issue of the global security of the supply chain, because we are part and parcel of the supply chain. And then finally, this program is a voluntary program, so we wanted to promote voluntary compliance, where somebody comes and says, I want to comply. So those were the 4 main objective targets that made URA adopt and start implementing this program.
Thank you so much. I understand that in the banking world, I'm sorry, I'll have to keep going back to the banking world for purposes of context.
Yes.
There are standards. It's not everybody that gets accorded the status of a premium banker or prestige or high level, depending on whatever it is that that particular bank has chosen to call that kind of clientele. I understand that also us as a country that is implementing the EOP program, we do have standards at a global level that we are actually held against. Are there some standards that Uganda is actually held against at the WCO level in execution of this program?
Yes, definitely. You see, a program cannot be a program. And as Charles said, it is a global program.
Yes.
So as a global program, definitely there must be standards to which you should adhere for you to measure up to that standard. So Uganda has to adhere to those standards. And these standards are well spelled out in that document, the SAFE Framework of Standards. And particularly, the same standards is the standards that we also use to make sure that our operators measure up. Because, you know, in the context of customs, you cannot talk about customs if you don't talk about crossing borders. And when you talk about crossing border, then you're bringing in the global plane now, or the global scene. That if a trader crosses from here, goes to Kenya, or maybe from there proceeds to China, then that trader must be able to, for the trader to be trusted, they must have the same standards that can be recognized all over. So the international standards exist, and we are bound by them. We play by them to make sure that our program measures up with the others. Possibly later I will talk about it. How we do that is because this document or the program, there's also encouragement that we should cooperate with other customs administrations and then form what we call mutual recognition arrangements, whereby a trader who leaves Uganda goes maybe to another country like India or China or Kenya. Once we have said that this trader is low risk and reliable, then they will know that yes, they will also recognize, because they know we are using the same standards for measuring the trader. So that is briefly how the standards operate.
Thank you so much. You really explained it quite well, and I have just 2 more questions for you. One is for purposes of us appreciating where else the program is being implemented on the continent. How many countries are actually implementing the Authorized Economic Operator Program in Africa? You'll give us some names of some of these countries so that we get to appreciate the people who are playing at Uganda's level. Then the second question is the AEO program attracts what kind of trader? Could be a company, could be a clearing agency, could be, if you can give us that breakdown of the kind of program, the kind of entities that are most suited for partaking of this that is extended to authorized economic operators.
Thank you, Solomon. Regarding the number of countries in Africa implementing this program. I would tell you that Uganda has been a forerunner in this program, and it is has been one of the benchmarks, which I'm sure many people, maybe people who don't know, we have a number of countries coming to study from us. But there are countries that are implementing it. In East Africa, we have all the 6 countries, the 5 countries of East Africa, that's Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, and Burundi, all implementing it. But these ones, while Kenya has a national program, the rest, Kenya and Uganda have national programs as well. The rest are operating it under the EAC, East African Community AO program, where we as a community, the East African community, decided that to maximize or optimize the benefits that we get out of this program, we should implement it at a regional level. So we have these 6, but other countries like South Africa is also implementing, Ethiopia is implementing, and Mauritius, Mauritius is also part of Africa, is also implementing. The Southern African countries like Namibia, Botswana, the under SACU arrangement, they are also trying to implement it. And then in North Africa, I think it is Egypt is also trying to implement it. Egypt, Morocco, Algeria. In West Africa, they are the countries which are implementing. I think Ghana is there. Nigeria is also trying. Most countries are now adopting it, but you'll find that they are still at very infant stages. The mature programs in Africa, would say these ones of East Africa, South Africa, and possibly Ethiopia, because theirs has also been there for some time. That is in Africa, but in the global context, many other countries are implementing it. The whole of Europe, North America, even South America, the Mexicos, Colombia, all those are implementing that. In Asia, you find China, Japan, Malaysia, Singapore, all those countries are also implementing it, because countries have realized that it is a very important program for trade facilitation and global security of the supply chain. So briefly, that is in terms of its spread geographically. Now, what kind of traders qualify for this? As long as an operator, we call them operators, as long as you operate along the international trade supply chain, you qualify. And one time I remember somebody was asking me, why do you use the word authorized economic operator? Why don't you say just maybe a certified company? We said, no, there is a reason why we do that. Because an economic operator is defined as someone who works for value. Okay. For example, if I gave you this pen at 10,000 shillings, and another person is selling this same pen at 1,000 shillings next door, most likely you will go and buy from the person who is selling it at 1,000, leave mine, which I'm selling at 10,000. Why? Correct. Because you want to maximize value. So you become an economic operator. Now, why do we say operator and not a company? Because anybody who, there are so many players. Some people are transporters. They transport the cargo. Others just do the warehousing. Others are clearing agents. All these offer services that fit into the supply chain. And we therefore, as long as you operate along the supply chain, whatever you're doing is along the supply chain, you qualify to become a rice economic operator. So it is not restricted. And it takes me back to, you gave a very good example that the fingers are all not the same.
They're not equal.
Or they're not all equal. But fortunately with the AEO program, even the short finger can be pulled to be the same height with the other finger. It's only your intention. That's why we refer to it as a voluntary program, because as long as you decide that I want to be equal to the other gentleman who just walks into the bank, then you come to us and we tell you, okay, these are the standards.
This is what you need to have in place.
Have in place this
to level up.
But what is most important is your willingness to comply. The rest of the things, we will take you through it and help you so that you become as long or as short as the other fingers.
But in summary, and I hope I'm right, while in the banking world, you basically just need to maintain a certain level of liquidity with the bank to be considered a premium customer. On the side of URA and Customs, WCO, to be an AEO, you have to maintain a very high level of compliance.
That is the currency. The currency is just compliance. And the more compliant you are, the better. We say, doesn't matter how big or how small you are, but your interest to be compliant is what matters. So anybody, you may find a very small player is on the program, and yet a big player cannot. The standards that we put in place to measure this thing only test what we want is you to be compliant and be able to assure us that you continue being compliant, in the sense that another person cannot come and use you without your knowledge. Those are some of the few things, but we want you to maintain that compliance as the common denominator for everybody.
Thank you so much, Martin, for that. We are going to go for a very short commercial break, and when we do come back, we are going to be joined by an actual authorized economic operator, so that this discussion becomes much wider and much more impactful. In just a bit, don't go nowhere.
Kyangweno naawe olowooza ababbi b'oku street be banzibye saabo kankubulire natikka ebintu byange okuva e China ne baŋŋamba neetaaga tiini namba nze nga sigirina neentuma omuntu omulala abindeetere kati ngenze mu URA baŋŋambye ebintu byange tebiri mu manya gange era si byange mbu sayina tiini namba nze kati nebya tiini namba sibitegeera nfudde obusete neewola bwewole ye tiini namba byebiki bannange sente zange
tax identification number oba giyite namba musuubuzi zewandiisa muiwala asasulira emisolo
kati ebyo nze njifuna ntya bambikola ntya
ebintu babigonza olina ndagamuntu
iyinjirina
ogenda bugenzi ku website ya URA www.ura.go.ug awo nolondako e-services then nogenda ku tin registration awo nno woteeramu n'ennamba yo n'omwaka gwe wazaalibwamu amannya go gajja kwereta automatically awo nojjuzaamu n'ebirala bitono nnyo ebyetaagisibwa ng'ennamba y'essimu yo email address yo ne gy'obeera era nga bino osobola obbisanga emabega wandagamuntu yo then nosubmitinga nga kamesagi kajja direct ku ssimu yo mu ddakiika ntono nnyo
nga sina ye bannange bintu bikolera ddala bannange obugayaavu kibi omanyi nti obugayaavu bukuza mu bannange weebale Dangote bannange omponyeza omanyi ebintu byange bingi byowonyeza okubbibwa nzizeyo mu URA mbalage nti njirina.
Okubeera ne tini namba kikuyamba mu bintu bingi nnyo okugeza mu kusuubula n'okusuubuza eby'emuguzi mu Uganda ne wabweru wa Uganda, okuddizibwa ensimbi okuva ku misolo gy'ozosasula, okufuna looni mu banka ez'enjawulo, okufuna layisinsi okuva mu government agencies zonna, okuwandiisa emmotoka yo n'okugula oba okutunda ettaka.
URA tukulaakulanyize wamu Uganda.
URA sinaba kusasula musolo Janet, lete basa gye nakuwa bannange sinasasula URA. Aya essaawa zigenda kuggwayo. Si bye bino waliwo basa gye nasembayo kuwa. Aya essaawa zonna ebiyinza okuba nga bye bino kangende biranja bikeberere. Afande njagala kudduka genda kusasula musolo ngenda kusanga basibyewo.
Nyabo ekyo kibadde kipakusa tokimanyi nti URA yabigonza dda. Kati usobola kusasula ku simu yo Nyabo.
Nti afande
onyigamunize *285#. Ngogoberera emitendera egyo ngofuna ka message ate URA yakuwaliza ekyapula teba kubanga URA.
Thank you so much afande.
Okalubirizibwa okusasula omusolo gwa bizinesi y'omubudde genda bugenzi mu simu nnyonyige *285#. Abaddukanya bizinesi entono eziyingiza wakati wa miliyoni 10 ne miliyoni 15 omwaka bakwanguyirwa okusasula omusolo gwabwe ogwa presumptive tax nga banyigabunyezi *285# banyumirwe enkola enennyango etali mu nsindikagano.
Nyabo bannange bya ddala. Janet omuntu awonyera yini gwe nina kusasuliranga ku simu labayo bannange.
Tuzimbire wamu ebiseera by'omu maaso ebitangaavu nga tunyiga *285# olunaku lwonna essaawa yonna wonna w'oli. Uganda Revenue Authority tukulaakulanyize wamu Uganda.
Wala banayivudde banzimye ezempedde. Jangu eno naawe olowooza ababbi b'oku street be banzibye. Saabo kankubulire natikka ebintu byange okuva China ne bangamba neetaaga tiini namba nze nga sigirina neentuma omuntu omulala abindeetere kati ngenze mu URA baŋŋambye ebintu byange tebiri mu manya gange era si byange musayina tiini namba nze kati nebya tiini namba sibitegeera. Nfudde obusete neewola mwewole ye tiini namba byebiki bannange sente zange.
Tax identification number oba giyite namba musuubuzi zewandiisa mu URA asasulira emisolo.
Kati ebyo nze njifuna ntya bambikola ntya?
Ebintu babigonza olina ndagamuntu
njirina.
Ogenda bugenzi ku website ya URA www.ura.go.ug awo n'olondako e-services then n'ogenda ku tin registration. Awo nno woteeramu n'ennamba yo n'omwaka gwe wazaalibwamu amannya go gajja kwereta automatically. Awo n'ojjuzaamu n'ebirala bitono nnyo ebyetaagisibwa ng'ennamba y'essimu yo, email address yo ne gy'obeera era nga bino osobola obbisanga emabega wandagamuntu yo. Then n'osubmitinga nga ka message kajja direct ku ssimu yo mu ddakiika ntono nnyo
nga sina bannange bintu bikolera ddala bannange obugayaavu kibi. Omanyi nti obugayaavu bukuza mu bannange weebale Dangote bannange omponyeza omanyi ebintu byange bingi byowonyeza okubbibwa. Nzizeyo mu URA mbalage nti njirina.
Okubeera ne tini namba kikuyamba mu bintu bingi nnyo okugeza mu kusuubula n'okusuubuza eby'emuguzi mu Uganda ne wabweru wa Uganda, okuddizibwa ensimbi okuva ku misolo gy'ozosasula, okufuna looni mu banka ez'enjawulo, okufuna layisinsi okuva mu government agencies zonna, okuwandiisa emmotoka yo n'okugula oba okutunda ettaka.
URA tukulaakulanyize wamu Uganda.
Thank you so much for keeping it here on the Live Tax Lounge. And remember, this show is highly interactive. So if you do have some questions that you would like to ask, there are quite a number of options, a number of platforms that you could actually consider to use to ask this question, and we shall run it by the panel of experts that we do have in studio today. You can ask a question via Facebook, you can ask a question via Twitter, or call it X. You can ask a question via the YouTube live stream. You can ask your question via Zoom, because all those platforms are available to you. And your question will actually be put before the panel of experts, and they'll be able to respond to it quite capably. Now, before we went for the commercial break, there's a promise that we made of a person who is joining us on set, and indeed she is here. Before it was Emmanuel. Now we've been able to fairly balance the situation, and it's none other than Jennifer. I'm going to request Jennifer to come in, and she tells you briefly about who she is, what she does, and why she's proud to be an AEO. Jennifer, the mic is yours.
Thank you. My name is Jennifer Mujiche. I'm CEO of Unifreight Cargo Handling, and Unifreight is one of the first 3 companies that were accredited as AEO in 2013, and we are happy to be saying that we are still AEO, because compliance is not a permanent condition or situation. It is a consistent improvement and commitment to being compliant. And so we are proud to be compliant company and as partners of Uganda Revenue Authority. Unifreight does logistics, we do transport, and we do customs clearing. Customs clearing is our mother service, and that is why I always tell people that I am a proud clearing agent, because all the history of 28 years, I have no case of fraud in as far as tax is concerned, and that makes me proud to be a professional clearing agent. And definitely that brings me to the reasons we are celebrating AEO. Why celebrate AEO? First and foremost, those of us who have been in this industry for a long time, we used to ask URA questions regarding what motivates me to be compliant. If I'm going to be treated like any other person, if we are all going to be in a queue in windows of URA asking for help, and there is no treatment, special treatment, that encourages me, even though, of course, in my opinion, compliance is also a character of an individual. And so, but the program came to encourage us, those who were and those who can, because of course there is a platform, there is initiative, and there is a program. And so that definitely has helped all of us. So the benefits, first and foremost, for me, relationship is very crucial. Where we sit on table and we discuss as equals, and discuss as partners, and discuss as people that have common vision of trade facilitating. For me, I think that is number one, that we are committed to that. We see URA as partners, not anymore the way we used to see them as enforcers and people who are going to coerce or even not listen at all. So AEO brought that benefit, that we sit and discuss and we understand one another. We are committed to discussing challenges where they exist. So relationship to me is very crucial. The same way my relationship with my client is important, that when they have challenges, they run to me, challenges to do with customs clearing, and then I'm able to solve them. And so that relationship is very, very crucial. Two, benefit of preferential treatment, that our entries are distinguished. When we do a declaration, it can be seen even from the screen in the system that this is a unique identifier of Unifreight or any other member of AEO. And so whoever is dealing with that transaction is definitely knowing there is maximum trust, and then they allow us to transact without a lot of scrutiny like it used to be in the past. And so for that definitely translates into efficiency, translates into reduced cost, in as far as our transactions are concerned, and of course good customer service ultimately to our customers. And so that is really one of the immediate benefits we got. And Unifreight in particular, we are a very demanding customer, and URA knows that every other time when we see or our client come with a problem, an emerging problem, an emerging demand to be helped, again, because of the relationship, we call URA and they respond. We sit together and, discuss how do we solve this problem. And I have found that also very, very important. That's how things like virtual bonds came. Nobody knew that there could be a virtual bond. Courtesy of Charles and the team, I brought a problem and told them I have so much bond, but the transactions I'm going to handle are bigger. What do? I can't process a bond in 1 or 2 days. And so the heads came up with an innovation of a virtual bond. And that is really, really for me some of the outstanding benefits that I cannot stop being proud of, is that kind of responsiveness to problem solving. And that's what we need. Logistics is actually about solving problems in as far as a trade, movement of cargo is concerned. And unfortunately, logistics problems can occur anytime and anywhere. And so when you have a partner like URA that is going to respond to those problems, I think for me, it's a great, great program that we should be able to, embrace. And challenges won't stop being there. But like I said, the partnership willing to solve problems is a great partnership, and proud to belong.
To be in that space where you have a partner who is actually willing to listen to you every time you have an issue that needs to be particularly handled, for you seems to be one of the bigger benefits from this program. But I do have a question for you.
Yes.
As a person who is an AEO, who is also in the business of logistics, clearing and forwarding, it is imperative that the clients choose SAP get the highest form of trade facilitation, in a sense of quick turnaround time, because their prerogative is to get the cargo here as early as possible and trade it before anyone else is actually able to compete with them. Do you feel that the AEO program has actually been able to give you an edge in the way that you're serving your clients?
I mentioned that, but I can go in details. Please. In terms of specifics.
Please.
I mentioned that the facilitation is in preferential treatment, reducing the scrutiny in our entries, trying to check whether this has been done. But because the unique identifier tells you that this is an AEO, then a person URA in a processing unit is going to just know this is AEO and passes. So we saw reduction of number of days from almost 7 to 1 day, 2 days maximum. And so for me, that's what I say. That efficiency translates into a good customer service, but also reduced cost. Because just imagine if a container arrived here and you are taking, even then in transport, we are giving people maximum 48 hours. Whether you are AEO anyway or not, as a transporter, I'm not willing to wait for that, because after that, detention is going to come in. So definitely those are some of the things we're talking about, that I have not incurred any extra cost at ICD because I am AEO. Actually, for me, most of the time, I'm not even coming inland. I'm doing it at the border. Again, because I can be able to call and say, look, I don't need to come to ICD. I'm trying to save the cost of the client. That's the idea, and that is the whole objective behind the program.
Thank you so much. And of course, before you came on set, we had just been made to understand that while in the bank, it's about the volume of cash that you have that is going to determine whether you're a premium client or not. Here, it is the highest form of compliance that is going to be the currency. And just before you came in, Charles was about to share with us a thing or two about what that means. holding the AEOs to a very high standard of compliance. Charles, if you can come.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Martin was talking about compliance, and my input would be that each time we talk about compliance, we appear to project it on the clients. The clients must be compliant. But then the question would be, what nature of compliance is that? Is it a forced compliance where you must force? Or is it a voluntary compliance that comes from them? Internally generated compliance, because that's the compliance that builds trust. And that's what Madam Jespa was saying. That is one angle of compliance, that the compliance, first of all, must be voluntary, not forced, that enforcement must chase you. Compliance must be cooperative, that you are willing to cooperate with us to discuss conversation. But then also compliance must come from us as government agencies, that what we commit to deliver is delivered. It takes two to tango. You can't ask for that much and give less, because that is the principle of mutuality. That's the principle of trust, that in as much as we want to trust their businesses, in as much as we want to trust them, they also need to trust us that what we commit to deliver is delivered. I think that's the tweet I wanted to bring in the word compliance, that compliance should first of all be voluntary, that it is internally generated.
You're choosing to be
compliant. And two, compliance must be cooperative. And then that compliance that we ask of them must be the same compliance we commit to deliver on what we promise to deliver. Then we can develop trust, then we can reduce cost of doing business. And I think we shall talk about cost later on. Thank you.
It is two-way, and I think you've made it very clear. Compliance that is voluntary on the side of the client, and a promise that is actually delivered on the side of URA as an entity that is in charge of this program. I think it does get clearer than that. Now, like I said earlier, this show is highly interactive, and people have already started. They are submitting some questions, and I do have a very hot question that will probably not interrupt the flow of the process, because I know we still have a couple of questions to break down as far as the program is concerned, but this one must actually get out of the way. And it is a question from someone who is tuned in, and they're asking themselves, what are virtual bonds? I think Jennifer talked about them, and she talked about them from a very gleeful perspective. She was very happy that she was talking about them, and someone doesn't seem to know what it is. So they would like to appreciate what the virtual bonds are, to understand these things a bit better. If you can come in, it could be Jennifer or Charles or Martin, whoever feels like they can attack this.
Maybe I could start, then Jennifer could give an experience.
Sure.
And I think before we explain the virtual bond, we first must understand what is this animal called bond.
Exactly.
And then we'll go to virtuality. Essentially, because goods are moving from the first point of entry or the border further inland, there is a risk that these goods might never reach, because we don't trust you, because of the history of your behavior, because we don't trust you because you have not committed to be compliant. So chances are that the fuel tanker that should have ordinarily paid 40 million as tax does not arrive in Kampala. The whole shipload of rice, of wheat, of sugar that was supposed to come to Kampala may disappear in Chikubo. And until I've collected taxes, then I'm not sure that I'm safe. So now that you're a transporter, now that you're a customs agent, now that you're an importer, in this case now a customs agent, please secure a bond of the value of those goods in terms of tax. So we tell the clearing agent to go to an insurance company, secure a bond of maybe 10 billion, and when you secure that bond, you pay about 0.5% of that value. So the insurance company gives a guarantee and tells URA or KRA or any customs agency that should these goods disappear,
I'm taking care of it.
So 0.5%, possibly the customs CIF value you see, is the money that a customs agent pays the insurance company, which is a cost. But because you're an AEO, because we trust you, we said now we know your systems, we know your process, you know your procedures, we know your location. You have assured us that you are good, or you commit to be good because errors happen. And we know that those systems can be audited. Then we don't have to mandate you to pay that 5%. Use that one as your capital. And then we say, okay, equivalent of that, instead of paying the insurance company, URA will guarantee you and give you a bond that is supposed to be a bond but guaranteed by URA, in which case you don't pay 0.5%. So whereas another person pays 100 million, maybe an AO does not pay anything, still brings his goods to the country. And that 100 million is used to facilitate his business, to promote his business. I'm just trying to break it down into a very elementary way.
And that is the benefit that you can actually touch.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think we shall, like you had indicated, we can go to Jennifer so that she tells the people just a little bit about how delicious that particular benefit is.
Okay, so it's been so delicious, and I think Unifreight was the pioneer that was piloted on that virtual bond. And I think for what people should understand, again, it comes from the historical commitment to compliance, your track record, but also the client for whom you are asking this for. There has to be a matching of voluntary compliance and voluntary history and commitment to compliance, that you can get such kind of benefit, because there is a risk. There is a risk, definitely. URA is trusting you, but that trust must be lived. Otherwise, it could go wrong. So that is what happens. They allowed us to do transactions of BIF that could have exceeded what we secured. In other words, they secured us instead of us going back to insurance company to ask for bigger bond and more premium to be paid to insurance company, which was a reduced cost. Again, I think these are some of the conversation we're having. Trust, relationship. To what extent can we take it higher than what it is today?
We can only improve the trust, that is for sure. And when we do improve the trust, it will mean that we shall be able to improve the program as it is, to get it from a level where it is today to a level that is much more refined. Now, at some point during the show, we are actually going to get into the dream, the possibilities that we can actually tap into, and as a benefactor from the AEO program, you come in very handy during that conversation, because it's okay to dream. And we shall need to get these ideas of the kind of things that you would like to see added to the program to make it much more prestigious, if I can use that word. But before we get there, we need to get an update on the current status of the program. And I guess this is where Martin and Charles will have to come in. What does it look like today? Of course, you gave us a picture of what it looked like at the onset, but 10 years later, what does the program actually look like for the case of Uganda? Why is it that many African countries, and I've also seen a couple of European countries and some countries from the Americans coming to benchmark with Uganda about this particular animal that is the AEO? What is the current status?
Okay, maybe I can go for that, and in case I miss out something, Charles can.
Okay.
Okay, the current status, we possibly need to talk of the number of players on board and what their contribution or coverage is. As Jennifer mentioned at the beginning, we had 10 of them. We piloted with them. We piloted with more, but the 10 were then authorized. Right now, as we speak, we now have about 120 on board. We are expecting that by 25th, when we will be commemorating or holding an event to celebrate 10 years of existence, we're going to authorize more, and we have about 120 companies or traders on board. These traders, as you said, they are very dear to us because you see, they are handling up to about 40%, between 38 to 40% of the supply chain that passes through Uganda or originates from Uganda.
Martin, for context, you are saying that these about 120 companies are taking care of about 40% of the food
yes,
that is handled by Uganda Customs.
Yes. That tells you how, and even the taxes they pay, I think, is also within that range of about 38 to 40% of the customs revenue that we get. The implication is that even when I sit here and I don't do much, I know that Jennifer is going to mobilize things in the right way. They will come. So that is currently the status, maybe, that I can say. The growth over this 10 years period has been. Definitely it has not been very easy, very smooth. We may possibly talk about it later. And in case maybe I've forgotten something, Charlie possibly could mention.
I think, like Martin has said, maybe I also try to put in another perspective, and that perspective is doing it so little, yet you're getting so much. Those who study economics call it the Pareto principle. That's 20% of your effort should give you 80% of value. Now, only 130 control between 40 and 45% of your customs value, imported goods. Only 130 companies give you between 35% of your taxes, customs. And possibly the last time we checked, 18% domestic taxes. You imagine the word we call stress. To verify, they have to sleep out in the night, they have to audit,
You have to enter every
container. Now, this person says, I'll give it to you on a silver platter. No, that's the value. So whereas we are talking about cost of business, the client, we're also talking about cost of business to us. That less staff can now be employed efficiently, focus on what is considered high risk, and cooperate and partner with another person who will say, I'll deliver it for you. I think basically that's the bottom line. That surely we should appreciate that a fraction. The last time we did the imports, there were about 30,000 importers in the country. And only 132 are giving you 40%. So if we can improve that one, possibly increase the numbers, give them benefits, and possibly those 132 give us 80% of the revenue, then we're home and dry. Then we're comfortable to focus on risk. Then we're comfortable to live at peace with the clients. Then we have to be happy where we work.
Charles, that's a dream in 3D. And dreams in 3D need to be given the prominence that they deserve. You can just repeat what you said. If we can get to a position where...
Back to starters, 131 now, 129, I think it's going to be 136.
Yes.
129, we're giving us 40%, 45% of volume of imports. 129 was giving us between 35% and 30% of customs revenue. That means 40% or 39% without verification, without interception, without sleeping outside. Between 18 and 20% of domestic tax. Then maybe putting in the other way, you have got your targets and your KPIs free of charge. Then why don't you drive for that? And as soon as we value that, then we can now say, can we bring more on board? Can we give them more benefits? can we cooperate with them to encourage that others come on board, so that possibly we get only 200 or 300 that would give us 80% to 90%. Like I said, the last time I checked, customs importers were 30,000 over the last 2 or 3 years. 30,000. So if 300, which is about 1% of that, can give you what you want, then you have got time to think proactive. You have got time to reward those who, and that's the dream in the 3D, that actually it is within us to be happy. It is within us to get food on the silver plate. It is within us to value those who give us that benefit. I don't know whether I've tried to put it.
You have. And you've also triggered something else in my mind. If it has taken us 10 years to get here, how many years do you think it would take us to get to that dream if we actually really focus some dedicated energy on refining this program?
Our intention is that in another 3 to 4 years we should be there, because now 129 gave us that value. As soon as we reach possibly 300, because our target now is to enroll 50 AEOs per year. So in another 4 years we shall have 200 AEOs. And our target is to ensure that the AEOs that come on board are respected and valued and afforded benefits. I had Madam Jennifer talking about the identifier. And our strategy is that how can IT that creates an identifier in customs create the same identifier in domestic tax? Because now it's like a bottle. You see this pen? Too much welcome party here and too much obstacle here. So if identifier can cut across, that those who enter here in happiness at the entry of the bank, like you said, find happiness along the value chain.
Customs and domestic taxes.
Domestic tax. Customs, domestic tax, corporate services. Customs, domestic tax, TID. Because the teen is known that this is a teen for Jennifer Unified. And the way customs treat him should be the same way DT treats him, should be the same way TID treats him. For example, you don't have to suspend my teen without calling me. You don't have to issue an agency notice without understanding, because I committed not to be a fraudster. I committed not to be non-compliant. There must be a reason I have delayed to pay that tax. Please call me. If you commit,
you owe it to me to indulge me before you take any.
Voluntary compliance. You owe it to me to give me the withholding tax exemption. You owe it to me to investigate me through cooperative approach. You owe it to me to audit me respectively. You owe it to me to make me move out of customs. Because I owe it to you to commit the level of compliance. Simple. Yes, submit.
Fantastic. You've really broken it down, and of course, like everything, even the most blessed union, even the most blessed partnership can have its challenges. To get to a point where Jennifer can actually speak like this, there are some things that have had to be twitched over the 10-year period to get us to this situation. It would be important for us to appreciate some of the challenges that we've actually faced along the way in execution of this program. And it will help us to appreciate how those challenges have actually translated into practicable solutions that we seem to now be enjoying. It will also help us to identify some of the areas that we can further improve, further refine, to get to a much more improved program that is the AEO. If we can use the next 5 minutes or so to actually point out some of these challenges. And I think I'll give the very first opportunity to the person who is on the other side of the program enjoying, because I feel like they would be the best placed when it comes to identifying some of these areas that need to be, looked into. Jennifer, if you may.
Okay, thank you. Actually, Charles hinted on them, but I'll just speak them again, like from my perspective of the user of the services.
Yes.
One is that there seems to have been disconnect between the AEO team and the commitment they have and the automation, because sometimes there are a lot of automation initiatives, which we appreciate there for improvement. Things like suspensions of our team. For one reason or the other, we feel that there should again be preferential treatment in as far as those areas are concerned. But you find that currently I have maybe a pending cancellation of a transit entry. I'm going to be disconnected like someone else is going to be disconnected. Suspensions, which are automatic. Then when you call, they tell you, no, the system, it's automatic. And I'm like, so now where is the value of AEO if the automation did not consider that actually I am AEO? So those little but painful and annoying things are still existing, which of course are opportunity for improvement. Number two, for me, I feel that those of us who are pioneers for 10 years, there has to be some kind of royalty programs which should come to the incentives that from the worldwide perspective of AEO, we should be upgraded. For instance, I just feel that at this moment, AEO for 10 years committed to compliance voluntary should now be given some kind of, the bond should be removed. We've had trust I've transacted. Why should I continue pay premium to an insurance? I've asked that question actually. I'm a customs agent. Why do you trust an insurance than you trust me? And I still have to spend money, but we have this relationship. So for 10 years, royalty program, we need them. What can attract even more people also to be consistent in as far as voluntary? Number two, license. Why should we get a license? I know it is automatic licensing, but we still have to apply. You still have to bring this. Right now, I haven't submitted Simani tax clearance. Things that we have already signed a memorandum of understanding with URA for 3 years. Please, let's have the customs license equivalent to the period of memorandum of understanding. And then we have, of course, I know we are talking about AEO in Uganda, but we also have AEO in East Africa.
Yes.
There seems to be no commitment from other countries that the AEO, especially our neighboring country, Kenya, I'm not sure how much URA can push Kenya to really recognize and make sure that we benefit from AEO. One of the things I would recommend is that why wouldn't an East African AEO automatically have a KRA license? Ugandans, most of Ugandan companies, and that's why I'm saying Ugandan companies that are AEO, especially customs agents, should automatically be given a license with KRA so that there is mutual within single customs. But currently, if you go to URA systems, they are not Ugandan companies that are licensed to operate in Kenya. We are still having to do what we call notified party. Notified party, we are paying extra $100 to a Kenyan firm per entry, per transaction. This is a cost that can be dealt with. Again, also to come back, how do we align AEO with single custom to give the total benefit that we expect?
Thank you so much for really breaking it down in Kenya. And I'm sure Martin and Charles have been picking notes if they haven't already. And it's possible that action is already happening in that space. But this is the time where we actually get to listen to Martin and Charles to see if there are some challenges that they've also been able to identify. At times, these challenges could be on the side of the AEOs themselves. Improvement, it takes two to improve, it takes two to tango. Martin, Charles, any one of you can fire right.
Okay, maybe I can start. Well, challenges. Right from day one, there have been a lot of challenges. The first thing is, one, acceptance or acceptability of the concept. Because, this program came with what people call a paradigm shift. The mindset had to change. Originally, when we were being trained as customs officers, they told us that the first thing when you see a taxpayer, you just know that you have seen a thief. So that was the mindset we had at that time. Now you're coming to tell people that, out of these people you see coming to pay tax, the majority are good ones. So it took time for people to accept it from the customs or URA side, the regulator side, but also from the operator's side. You see, people say now, when the lion comes to you and starts pretending that he's a good man, the next time he's going to swallow you. So nobody was willing to trust URA with this kind of idea. They thought there was a trick behind it. That is why it had to take very bold people like Jennifer to agree to come on board and start pioneering this thing. And that's why in 10 years, we really want to celebrate them. The challenge she has mentioned, like for example, the issue of loyalty. We had looked into it. And that's why we are, Jennifer, we speaking futuristically, we are introducing a tier system whereby those who have stayed like yourself can grow and earn a higher level of benefit. For example, the virtual bond you talked about, I don't think somebody who entered today may get that benefit. But you was been around for 10 years. We know you. Because as part of the challenges, there are also people who come in and sometimes complacency comes in. Because remember, there are standards that should help you to comply. 100%. Yeah, so sometimes they become complacent, one or two, they drop certain standards.
There's this saying in Uganda, I'm not going to trade a once in a while, you need to keep on reminding.
You have to keep on reminding. That is the people just so that is part of the challenge on both sides, and of course the benefits, as she has said. We have sometimes found it difficult to live up to our expectations. This program also, as you know, there are many players along the supply chain, not only URA or customs, but also other government agencies. For example, Bureau of Standards, those who help us to regulate trade. Some have already come on board, but some are still taking time to come on board. Now we need to bring them on board so that the experience of the trader is complete, or the person moves along the supply chain. There is no need as clearing you, for example, if she is clearing an AO, she lodges a declaration, it gets automatic release. But now when it gets automatic release, UNBS has tagged it for inspection. It has to take maybe 4 or 5 days, for example, so that an inspector of UNBS can take sample and test. So you find that in that regard, the value is lost again. So we need to work with our counterparts to see how we can analyze these things. Those are some of the challenges, and we're still trying to work on them. There are many, but I think Charles
could be having one or two up his sleeve.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I think Martin has talked about benefits, complacency, and the government agencies. I think I may not talk much about those. I think they just for benefits, they put it back to perspective. Whereas we had committed to offer benefits, we seem at first have given very generic benefits, priority treatment. And we are 3,000 staff or 2,000 staff of URA. Possibly other government agencies were 5,000. So if that benefit is not put to standards we talked about in the morning, then we shall have 3,000 or 4,000 interpretations. So whereas the benefits have been there, each one of us have been interpreting them differently, and it becomes a non-tariff barrier. So what we have done, for example, for now, is to now define those benefits into a 24 or 25
set of
standards. What does it benefit? What problem does it want to address? What is the legal framework? What is the responsibility of the customs officer? What's the obligation with the operator? What is the measure of performance? So that we know that this means this. end to end, so that all of us interpret it the same way. So that is one a challenge and possibly the solution. Another challenge has been the manual process, that even when we promise too much, big part of AEO supporting activities have either been manual, or if they have been automated, they have not been in sync. We talked about identify. So now we are rolling out what you're calling the AEO PCA ERMS, Enterprise Resource Management System. And that will be able to interface all IT or AEO TIN numbers and related activities so that we can have visibility from end to end. And within that AEO ERMS, Muffin talked about complacency. Then that AEO ERMS will enable AEOs to do peer review of themselves and also do peer review of us. But in Uganda, so it helps us check. If you query, then they will help check or check yourself automatically. And then, of course, with that one, then it also provides skill. That within that platform, there will be a learning module so that an AEO can continuously go there and learn the principles of international trade, the risks, so that it can address. But essentially is to remove as much as possible human element and make the system that is automated, checkers, and more transparent and standardized. I think those are the challenges and possibly relating to what we intend to do. So along the way, you'll hear us launching what we call AEO ERMS. Along the way, you'll see us launching what we call the AEO Benefit Manual. And I would request that all of us listeners on this platform pick interest to understand the content, and possibly another time you'll call us to give the detail of that. So that it's not a big show of an event with the content that is not understood by all of us.
Thank you so much, Charles, for really breaking it down. It takes appreciation of challenges to actually fully understand what the benefits have been. And in the next 5 minutes, I would like us to get granular with the benefits, and we really tackle them so that the viewers on this other side, especially that prospective AEO, someone is tuned in and they're probably thinking to themselves, how do I actually become a part of this program and I tap into the many benefits that come with being an AEO in Uganda or even at the regional level. If we can use the next 5 minutes to break down these benefits bit by bit, layer by layer, so that people are actually able to fully appreciate them, that would be a very good thing. And again, natural selection, I feel inclined to invite the AEO first, because then she gets to speak about the benefits from the vantage point of a person who is actually busy benefiting. Then thereafter, we can have Martin and Charles coming into the picture to also share the perspective of the taxman. Jennifer, over to you.
Thank you. I will repeat what I had said because I mentioned them in the beginning. And the first benefit is a trusted relationship between ourselves and Uganda Revenue Authority, which of course entitles us to a lot of communication, coordination, discussion, and finding solutions. But also specifically, the preferential treatment in our transaction helps us save time. We save time in our day-to-day running operations, and then we also reduce costs, which cost definitely is a benefit to the customer as well. And we come from a background as customs agent, like Charles had mentioned, rather Martin mentioned a bit, where we had a wrong image of where everybody thought that whoever is in clearing and forwarding has just come to steal. But AEO has restored our image. There are those agents that definitely have demonstrated a good reputation as a result of their compliance history, and definitely that is a motivator in as far as this program is concerned. And of course, in logistics, when we talk a good service as far as logistics is concerned, a good improved customer service to our client is that one that is speedy, that delivers on time and reduces cost. And that's what the program is here to deliver. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. You've really broken it down from the perspective of someone who is benefiting. Now it's important that we get to appreciate it from the one who made the promise.
Yes.
That way we get to evaluate and say, is the promise being delivered or there are still some gaps? Martin, over to you. In terms of benefits, what did you set out to actually ensure that the compliant ones?
Okay. Thank you, Solomon. Earlier, Charles talked about benefits. But you know, the definition of benefits is sometimes, yes, a bit, particularly in the AEO context. But what we look at is normally where there's a bottleneck, where you're getting a challenge, we should help you overcome it because we have trust and there's a partnership between us and you. So each time we try to draw a list of benefits. Sometimes you find that they get overtaken by events, but sometimes, but as long as it helps that compliant person overcome a hurdle, that is currently, of course, we have things like talk of priority treatment. Of course, Jennifer may not be knowing all of them because sometimes not all of them apply to her, because some benefits are designed according to the role you play in the supply chain. Others we have like choice of place for physical examination. If you are an importer, we can allow you to choose where to go and get your goods verified, just in case it is selected. A reduction in the number of goods that we are going to verify or we subject to customs control. Although we normally leave some percentage, if other people are being verified, maybe 40%. For the AEO, we have put it at around 0.5 to 2%. The 0.5 is to help us check, just random check to see is there something going wrong or is there, and in case we find it. The good thing with the AEOs is when you find some small error and you bring it to their attention that we have found this problem, they immediately correct it. And if there's tax to pay, they pay it off. Because normally these things come, errors could be there. So we have priority treatment, a choice of place of physical control. For those who have bonded warehouses, particularly the manufacturers, we allow them to manage their own bonded warehouses. For possibly people who are not aware, customs bonded warehouse, there are two people who keep the keys. One is the customs officer, one is the owner, or the bond. Before you can access your goods, particularly if you're a manufacturer and you want to access your raw material, the customs officer must first be there. Now, remember, sometimes the customs officer works from 8 to 5 and he goes away. You need your raw material at 10 because you operate the whole night. You have to wait until the following day. Inconveniences you. So what we do, we give you the key and say, be the customs officer yourself. Make sure you run it. And they do it. They run it so well that you go to do the assessment, you find that it is being run well. That's part of the benefit we give. Automatic renewal of licenses, he said we're asking her for some few things. We'll see how to streamline those nitty-gritty. But if you are an agent, you should not come and line like the others. What we had said was that we just wanted you to express to the commissioner that I still want to continue. Then you should be given. Because in case now you don't want, then you don't submit. That's what we had thought. But still, as we said, the benefit makes sense from the eye of the beneficiary. So if she has suggestions, definitely we will take it up. But we want, in return for her compliance, we should be able to facilitate her business faster in a more relaxed way. There are so many at that micro level. There are a number of them, as Charles said. We have so far reached a list of 23 of them, and they will continue. The 23 will be launching it together with the benefits manual, hopefully on the 25th. when we commemorate
The 10 year.
10 years.
Yes.
But what I wanted to say also from a macro or maybe a larger perspective, the AEO program, as I said, should help the operator reduce costs of doing business. Should operate less at a less cost. Then reputation. See, reputation, like as he was talking of virtual bond, because of reputation, nobody is going to walk into the commissioner's office and say, give me a virtual bond, and he will give. No. This offers gives you that reputation that you're reliable, you're trusted, you're low risk, you can be relied on, something like that. Briefly, those are, but there are many more benefits. And what I normally say is that if there is a potential person out there, not just potential, everybody out there is allowed to join the program. It is open to everybody. Nobody, as long as you operate along the supply chain. Now, what you do, come and contact us. We sit on the URA towers at Mezzanine. The AO office is there. And then we take you through what we call a preliminary consultation. We assign you officers who will take you through what is in it, what we want you to do, what you will get. All these questions will be answered. All you have to do as of now, before we do automation, we want you just come over so that we tell you what to do, or you write a simple letter.
Express interest.
Just express interest that I want to join the program. Even if one line, don't worry. Just write one line and sign that I want to join, and send it to the commissioner's office. Then we will see how to get to you. All that you have to do is give us your contact so that we can easily get back to you. Maybe briefly, that's it, Solomon.
Thank you so much, Martin. We, at the time is fast spent, really. We should probably be considering calling this a wrap, but not before we actually attend to these very hot questions. We have only 3 questions that have not been responded to. One of them is a bit straightforward, but I'm going to ask it for the purposes of the person who asked it to get the benefit of being responded to. And that question is it only Uganda registered companies who can join the AEO program with URA? Is it only Ugandan registered companies which can join the AEO program with URA? That's the question. The other questions that we do have, one is coming from a gentleman called Ernest Kasule. He was kind enough to put his name, and he's saying, thanks a lot, panelists, for the engagement. We are proud members of this program, but we are seeking to know how best we can be given rights to view our exports. We were certified as an importer and exporter. We have tried to apply for these rights, but so far we have not had the rights activated. Powerful question, isn't it? Then the other question is a question from anonymous attendee, and anonymous is saying, at what point should URA withdraw the AEO status? Sometimes we encounter omissions or commissions with AEOs, which they normally call errors routinely. Shouldn't we expect a high level of quality in their operations, for example, in staff employed, record keeping, etc.? Sometimes they only front being AEOs rather than demonstrating it. This sounds a lot like a URA officer. Those are the questions that we have in queue at this point in time. If you can address them, this is the time to do it.
Maybe Moderator could try to address a few.
Okay.
One is yes.
Yes.
Currently, only Uganda registered companies can be AEOs.
In Uganda.
In Uganda, but because we are moving toward the regional program, we are trying to look for a benefit that can recognize an AEO company registered in another country but has a fully owned branch. Because you cannot be clean in the house and be data in the compound. So if you're an AEO in Kenya and you are good and you have got a branch in Uganda, how can we make it easier for you to join the program? But that's the discussion for the future. But for now, only Uganda registered.
Because I understand you need some legal facilities in place.
Yeah, those are the things. It's a prospection. It's what we are thinking about.
Okay.
Two is the rates for viewing declaration, not actually only exports, all declarations. Because you are asking this client to be compliant. How can he be compliant when he has a blind spot? Allow him access to the system, to look at outstandings, to look at assets not paid, to look at the entries that have not been duly exited, so that they can do voluntary compliance. Because you cannot surely make me walk and blind my eyes. I think that's something we need to consider seriously, so that we can facilitate them. Another one is, of course, is about to AEOs that would appear to be AEO name but not in practice. Like we said earlier, Mr. Moderator, that AEO is not based, of course it is based on the company, because you must be registered, but it is based on systems, processes, procedures. And what we are saying is that as soon as you're AEO, I relinquish my obligation to check you, to manage it within your system. So that you literally have your own DPC, literally have your own exit check. By the time the entry comes to customs, it is literally work done. So that's the journey we need to take, and that's why we're putting in place a training program, and that's why we're crafting a benefit to make that one clear, that surely for you to come to customs and be cleared within a minute, auto-click blue, auto-click release, auto-click exit, then you must be sure that you are good enough. So that I don't have to disrupt you 6 months down the road that you did not declare well. But again, this one also requires maturity, that we engage them and understand that even as they exist as institutions, there will definitely be gaps. And the challenge and the need will be, how do we cooperate to address those gaps? Is it a training issue? Is it a skill issue? Is it a governance issue? Is it a process lab? Because unless we break down that problem to understand the cause, then we shall not be adding value to them. So it's good enough to understand the challenge, but please let us know the cause. Why, until you get the last why. I think that was my attempt to answer those three questions. But then possibly allow me just 1 other minute. We talked about benefits. I will not talk about the benefits, but I want office of our all listeners to look at these figures. Okay? Because the bottom line is cost of doing the business. And I use the figures. One of them is that Jennifer said you are going to pay $100 for every declaration because you are not recognized in the partner state. If we have got 6,000 declarations that we have of AEOs, that will be $7.2 million remitted. On average, an AEO would spend close to $300 for delay, container damage charge, truck retention charge, drivers, it's about $300. For 6,000 transactions, declarations, that is 21 million. If you spent in URA one additional day, $21 million. From the 7 days, it is $151 million. For heaven's sakes, that is foreign currency. That's the money you're going to repatriate
to another country.
Why do we allow that money to be repatriated? That's the additional cost on the kilo of sugar. We talk about corruption. That's an incentive. Why should I spend this $150 million when you can make it easier? So the system itself is an inducer of corruption because you're creating an appetite for the other one to make it easier. But then bottom line again is that AEO is, we are reducing NTBs, making business competitive, and therefore making Uganda a supermarket. And that's what the president says, exporting jobs. We need to look at AEO as the one that makes the world supermarket of products. Make export efficient, make export competitive, because we're talking about comparativeness, so that we can export. Then we can bring the foreign exchange. Then we talk about the Millennium Development Goals. Then we talk about foreign exchange. Then talk about balance of trade. I think those are the details that we need to appreciate beyond the figures of time, of cost. And we as nationals must know that whatever we do comes back to our table to give us higher cost of living. Submit.
Thank you so much, Charles. At this point, I would like to indulge Jennifer if she has some input, especially on some of these questions that have been asked.
Definitely, I think I would comment on the one where the anonymous one. Because it appears that, like you suspected, which is true, it's someone from URA giving feedback.
Correct. That
we could be, yes, at least Unified is not one of them, but I can speak from, I think, a perspective of understanding. I think it comes back, it's a challenge going back to URA. that whereas we are looking at increasing the numbers of AEO, I think we have to be careful on the selection and the criteria. When we began this program, the criteria and the scrutiny was really deep. It was deep. It helped me personally. The questions they would ask, the questionnaire that they sent, helped me reorganize my own business. And now I'm ISO certified because I realized, you know what, yes, since I've been accredited, but I can take it even higher. So I think it comes back to the team at AEO that we need to be, again, careful that we are not going to dilute this status of being an AEO by just looking objective, being increasing the numbers and sacrificing the quality of the numbers.
Powerful. It's not a numbers game. It's a quality.
Yes. It's a quality management thing, really. Accreditation is a quality management principle.
It couldn't have been said any better. Martin, is there anything you would like to say to that?
Maybe just a little on this anonymous. We are suspecting that possibly this URA officer, but this question, unfortunately, I've heard it from even the private sector. So the bottom line is that, you know, we have to look at what is AEO, Program for Voluntary Compliance. Now, where we part ways is if we see that your intention is now not to comply. That's why in everything we check when we are monitoring, evaluating you, is the error, an intentional error meant to defraud, or it is a mistake or an error which occurred out of mistake.
Some people use the word genuine mistake.
A genuine mistake. A genuine mistake can occur. And many times it occurs. Sometimes because of ignorance. Sometimes she has employed a new staff to do declaration. Then she makes a mistake. Sometimes even it happens that you may find that a staff of the company can even go and do something wrong. But the management of that company does not sanction it. You find that that staff is possibly even put in jail. And so that is how we do it. We look at the intention. If your intention now is to defraud, then you fall off. If it is an error, then we have three processes. One is called warning, suspension, before we go to revocation. Revocation is when we have established that there is fraud, intentional. But if you have errors which are arising out of weaknesses in systems that you have, we give you what we call administrative notice. Tell you areas where you should improve within that time. And within that period, possibly we suspend the status, depending on the gravity. If it is a simple thing, for example, one of your walls is down, and we want you to erect it, and we know it does not directly affect maybe the number of declarations you put in, then we just write to you, please correct that problem while we. So, anonymous will not be alarmed. And what we do here for these cases, we want what we call evidence, which are real, tangible evidence. There must be evidence that something wrong has been done. Many times we have gut feelings. I see Solomon, I said the way he's dressed in that suit today, he must be a thief. Then I don't have anything to prove that. In many cases, we have had such situation. So to answer that question, the stage where we go for revocation, removal of certificate, that's revocation, is when we establish that your intention is no longer to comply, but to defraud.
Thank you so much. Very powerful. Time check is 7 minutes past midday. We've had discussion for longer than an hour and a half. And I'm sure the people on the other side of the coin have actually been benefiting. A lot of learning has probably been taking place. And it is at this point that I'm going to invite you, in no particular order, to give your parting shots in the build up to the big day that is coming around on the 25th of this very month, where we are going to commemorate, or should I use the word celebrate, 10 years of the AEO program in Uganda. Charles can go first.
Thank you, moderator, and fellow viewers. Like my colleagues have said, or like we started at the beginning, we shall be celebrating 10 years on 25th of this month. First of all, we recognize that we all have businesses to do, so we intend to make it short. It will be an event that will, if God so wishes, close by midday. Invitations are being made, and the clients will come, and we shall be celebrating all those AEOs that have been with us in this journey for the 10 years. We shall also be launching the benefit manual. We shall also be talking later about the automation process. We shall also be authorizing a new operators. I think those will be the main activities of the event. But then we also live in society that wants to give back to society. We are trying to mobilize AEOs, and Madam Jennifer's invitation and request by Pastor, she was coming here, that we have got a society that needs to see our value. One of them is Naguru, China Uganda Hospital in Naguru. They have got a cancer ward that still has some few resource gaps. So we want to mobilize a few funds so that we can do a donation to that hospital, so that we can be able to cure cancer. 2 days ago, there was an article in the newspaper about the time bomb of cancer in this country. Possibly, if we get more money, we also want to help rebuild the Ntoroko Hospital. It is in a state that is not very friendly. One ward for both men and women. When there's a delivery, they first put a curtain, then you deliver, then they bring you back to the ward. So want to also give back to society, and I would call the AEOs and possibly the URA staff that are willing to be part of this struggle to contribute. We want to make it simple by having either Airtel line or Momo Pay line, and would request people to contribute. I think those will be the main deliverables for that event, but the most important, celebrate the struggle for voluntary compliance, the struggle for cooperative compliance, and the struggle and the journey for AEO. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Charles. We are here to amplify that particular message, that call to action to every AEO, to every URA staff, and even another sympathizer out there who might feel led by the Spirit to do something about that initiative. We shall be sure to let them know so that we garner as much support as we can in commemoration of the 10 years of AEO. Jennifer, the floor is yours.
Thank you, moderator. My message is first and foremost, happy to be part of this celebration and to have been one of the pioneer AEOs, proudly so, and committed to compliance. And yes, there has been achievements, and of course, whatever the achievements, there are emerging challenges. And that is no more in as far as business management, even on our side as private sector. We plan, we implement, but challenges come as you implement. As you achieve, but there are also challenges. What is important is to definitely be committed to continuous improvement, continuous innovations of solving the new emerging problems as we move on. Thank you.
Continuous improvement, continuous solving of issues as they emerge.
Yes.
Oh, Matt, this is your moment.
Thank you. My final remarks now is to say that the AEO program has come a long way, 10 years now. We invite all the AEOs, let's come, commemorate it, so that we continue working together to see how we can develop this program. And from the figures that Charles was talking about, you can see how staggering they are, in hundreds of millions of dollars that we can save for our own good here. And of course, the call for action, as you said, so that the society also feels us, is something we encourage all the operators. But I am there hoping to interact and shake the hands of every AEO on the people, because these are my very own people. So everybody's welcome. The AEOs, of course, because of constraints, we are inviting only the AEOs and some other people, not the whole public. That is the thing, and those who want to come on board, please take advantage of it now, so that you can also join this premium club. Jennifer has already talked about it, how it has even helped her to become ISO certified. So let us all come and join hands. It will help us to have a better country. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Martin, for those parting shots. And of course, it is at this point in time that I get to thank each and every person who has made the time to be a part of this program. We are promising that we are going to be coming back to you with another special before the actual day of the 10-year anniversary of the AEO program. So expect a lot more communications around the program in the run-up to the big day. And if you are considering it, I'm looking at you and I see you considering it, please go for it. The time is now to actually become an AEO. All you need to make sure of is that your compliance needs are on the right side of the standards that are expected of you. And you too can become a part of this exclusive club of Ugandans that are taking the country forward from a customs and a domestic taxes revenue contribution perspective. I would like to also use this very minute to salute the guys that you don't get to see, the men and women behind URA TV, and that is none other than Alexander Kiza in the production booth today, together with Ebenezer, as well as Trexon Theon, or as people call him, Trevor Sentongo, who is also doing quite well on the cameras, and the lady herself, Irene Kabakama. From all of us at URA TV, to all of you, adios.